Hey guys, welcome to season 2, episode 1 of Sharing a Drink with Matt. And have we got some bands for you this season? And also, things are going to be a bit different as we're starting off with a new producer. Thank you, Shay Fox, who is well known in the Australian punk scene for his underground music documentaries. Anyway, today, episode 1, season 2, I'm starting off with the legendary Phil Rose. How are you, mate?
Hey, Matt, how's it going? Glad to be here.
Excellent. I usually ask where the name comes from, but I really guess that that's just a play on words, a very cheeky, quirky, smart play on words.
That's pretty much it, Matt. I think there's also a lot of people actually say, oh, did you name it after the Genesis album? There's a Genesis album with the crime spelled slightly differently, and no, we didn't. But yeah, it's just a bit of a kind of funny name that I had from probably about 1987. And I remember having it in the back of my mind thinking, oh, that'd be a great band name one day, kind of thing, and then ended up using it.
Excellent. What can I ask? What were you subjected to as a child? What music did your parents have on the stereo when you were growing up?
Fairly a lot of, I suppose, just like a lot of people of kind of my vintage, 70s, kind of early 70s AM radio. Pardon me, but a lot of I suppose, bands like the Drifters and kind of white soul music and things like that, and just pop music basically. So just stuff on the Seekers, stuff on the radio like that. So as a young kid, that was the kind of stuff I was listening to pretty much.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we're both on the same length there. So if you jump in the car or you turn your stereo on, what's the plan?
Right at the moment.
Yeah, what are you listening to at the moment?
What am I listening to at the moment? Actually been rediscovering a band from Burleigh in Queensland called Gaslight Radio, who were around in the kind of mid '90s, kind of lo-fi kind of band. Really kind of rediscovering them. But I don't know, Matt, I tend to go back when I'm listening to sort of old favourites and stuff. So I really love the Gun Club, bands like that. And listening to a lot of Michael Jai, the Swans, stuff like that. I really like at the moment and have for many years. But lots of stuff, mate. But I also love like soul music and stuff like that, like Motown and that kind of stuff. So sometimes I'll listen to that.
Yeah. So what's your favourite genre in music?
Oh, it's really hard to answer. Like it probably, in a weird kind of way, what I like to play is kind of different than what I listen to, I suppose. So it's hard to probably pick a favorite genre as such, but I tend to like probably, for me, music's just about mood. So something that can kind of affect my mood or something that has a really kind of strong emotional effect on me, I kind of gravitate towards. So I probably couldn't answer that by saying there's any one thing. It's just, and I think as you get older too, you kind of become a little bit less of a snob, about music, and you go, okay, yeah, that's all right. But look, pretty much I'm pretty open-minded, and I've worked in recent years on projects that are quite mainstream almost, and stuff like that. So, it's basically everything. I think for me, it comes back to songs. If it's a song-based thing. If I hear something and I think, gee, that's a great song, or there's a really good message here, or a really good emotion being conveyed in that song, I'm like, hey, I'm there,
Yeah. Is there a genre you don't like that you just can't listen to? Or like I've said this a million and one times, I think there is a gem in every genre.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's pretty much a genre I wouldn't listen to, and that's R&B rap. I just can't get my head around it. Like a lot of people used to say the punk was pornographic, and I think the R&B genre it is. It's just porno with a shitty fucking music background.
Yeah, look, you're right. A lot of it can just be gratuitous kind of violence or sexual innuendo and all that kind of stuff. And that, although I mean, look, there's there's a lot of elements of hip hop and stuff that I do like, and I've worked a little bit again in recent years with music that I've been working, that is kind of based with some of those artists. So in a way, I remember in the early '90s, it was probably around the time when Public Enemy were kind of around, and Fear of a Black Planet and that kind of era. And I remember thinking to myself, that rap or hip hop was like the last gasp of rock and roll. Like it was, punk did, like it came from the street, right? So it was like, okay, this is rock and roll for now. It's street music. It's kind of, but then like all genres, it was kind of co-opted into the mainstream and became this kind of like money making thing. And I think you're right. It's a bit like, I think of it like this, mate. I reckon, if you look at a lot of 80s kind of hair metal stuff, a lot of the lyrics are just real shitful kind of, come here, baby, just dumb kind of sexist kind of crap. But there was also a lot of really good bands in that genre as well. So I tend to look at hip hop a bit like that. There's some amazing kind of artists doing really good stuff, and there's probably just some really shit ones too, I suppose.
Definitely. So what your favorite venue that you've played? Have you got a favorite venue that you've loved playing throughout the years?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, probably a couple, mate. I reckon the Lansdowne in Sydney, mate, was just phenomenal.
I've seen you there many times.
Yeah. Oh, look, I remember when I was in the Slush Puppies, we played a really legendary New Year's Eve gig, which would have been New Year's Eve '88, with God and I think the Cosmic Psychos and someone else. And there was just like hundreds of people out on the road there on that. I think it was a Sonic Centre or something across the road. But unbelievable, but lots of great nursery crime shows there from sort of the late 80s until early 93. Fantastic venue. We just love playing there. And probably also the Corner Hotel in Melbourne.
Okay, yeah.
Great venue too. I always find that those kind of smaller venues with a low ceiling, they have that really good sound, good for rock and roll, for high energy music. But definitely the Lansdowne, though, that would, if you ask me for one favourite one, that would get my vote.
Oh, great venue. And the Punks picnics across the road, that they were always a good one. I think in that park there that they had on I think in Parramatta Road,
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But I remember going to, even years before, I was about 86 when I was in Alligator Parade. We sort of went up to Sydney on this ill-fated idea that we'd kind of move the band up there, and it didn't really eventuate. But we got to Sydney and we just stumbled upon the Lansdowne. We just found it by accident, and there was cheap backpackers accommodation there. Pardon me. I remember just walking in there. It would have been 86 or early 87, and Straight Jacket Bits were playing, a New Zealand band.
Oh, magic.
Amazing. I remember thinking, wow, this is pretty good. But great venue. Yeah, good times.
Excellent. You never played, I don't know. I lived in Surrey Hills for that era. You never played at the Hope Town, did you?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We played there. We played there a couple of times. We definitely did probably one or two Rock Against Work gigs.
Yeah, on Monday.
One with Rat Cat. I definitely remember doing one with Rat Cat, and we're probably talking 1991.
Yeah.
And another one. Pardon me. Another one. I remember the guys from Mudhoney being there because we were up there playing with them, and I remember that one of the guys from Mudhoney actually being chucked out by the bouncers for being drunk.
That was when Mudhoney were playing with Have a Nice Day at the Phoenician. Was that era?
It could have been, mate. It could have been, yeah. But I've got a feeling maybe Proton Energy Pills. We definitely did at least two of them. I don't think we played their Nursery Crimes it is. I did play there with Shreen, I think, later. But yeah, but that was a good little great venue too. Is that still, what happened with that, mate? Did that just close down and stay closed?
Yeah, I haven't been to Surrey Hills since the early 2000s, and not really in Burke Street, so I actually wouldn't know. It's a shame if they did. It's a shame if they did. Like on the Gold Coast, the Playroom, we've lost that. We've lost the Patch. We've lost Bombay Rock. We've lost Crumban Hotel, the Jet Club. They in the last 20 years they've just been taken. fucking the
made
best
into
venue.
apartments. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, look, you're right, and even that early, I mean, probably more so in the before my time in the kind of early or mid '80s, but certainly when nursery crimes were going up to Sydney, you could do, 3 or 4 shows. I don't know, you could play at the Petersham, at Max's, maybe Lansdowne, Hopeton, I don't know, somewhere else, but there was lots of avenues of places to play at. Lewisham, was it hotel?
Yep. Yep. Is there a venue you hate? Do you just, oh my God, we got a gig there.
No,
Really not looking forward to that.
not that it comes to mind, mate. I think probably more probably more bad gigs rather than bad venues, but no, not really, no. Oh, the Annandale's another good Sydney one. It's a bit later on. It's a great venue too. Yeah, not any bad venues. I mean, I do remember playing a gig in Warrnambool, and I think we were all just a bit too merry. So by the time we got on stage, we sort of weren't really in great condition to play. So that's memorable for
Yeah.
the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Like the Sex Pistols playing in Texas. Have you ever been on a gig like that where you just shouldn't have been there? Like
Was that the one where Sid referred to what did he call the Texans? Something fairly derogatory, didn't he? I'm just trying to think. Probably not so much. We've probably had gigs that have been like in nursery times. I remember when we went to Perth the first time, and the promoter there, Squasher, he put us on. We did some gigs with Painters and Dockers, who we knew from Melbourne. Pardon me, but he put us on on a bill with these full-on metal bands, right? But we were kind of unannounced. He goes, "Oh, I reckon you might go down well." And we were like, "What the hell?" So we came out of this packed venue with all these full-on metalheads, and we just played this really full-on hard set. And it was at the start, they were a bit like, "Who are these? Who are these guys? What the fuck?" But by the end of it, we kind of won them over. So I remember things like that, challenging kind of gigs that were kind of fun.
Yeah.
But we got our share of bad gigs though, for sure. Like had a couple of probably dodgy ones over the years.
Oh, of course. So you went on a break for a while. I didn't hear much of you until the Last Descendants tour. Were you on a hiatus or?
Pretty much with Nursery Crimes, Matt. We finished at the end of '93.
Yeah.
And then that was basically it. And we kind of reformed in, was it 2006? And we did a headline show at the Corner Hotel in Melbourne and a couple up in Sydney. And then from that, we ended up playing a few shows with the Lemonheads, who we knew in Melbourne, and probably another 6 or 7 gigs in Melbourne. That was up until 2007. Then we stopped again. And we played with the Descendants in Melbourne and Sydney in 2017.
Yep.
And we had a break again, and then we got asked by the Descendants to play again last year, which we did. And we also did a couple of shows with the Hard-Ons, I think in June last year as well in Melbourne. So it was kind of like, the band sort of stopped, but it's kind of like, when if something good comes along, we go, "Oh, yeah, that'd be great." So if the Descendants ring you up and say, "Hey, do you want to play?" You do it, and that's basically it. That's sort of the plan, Matt. Like we had planned to keep doing more shows this year, but we just changed drummers recently. So we've kind of just started getting up and running again, if you like, and we've got a show with the Hard-Ons on Cup Eve in Geelong at the Barn Club, which will be cool. So we're just planning to do shows again. So hopefully we'll have some in Sydney and early next year and stuff like that. And we've got plans, but they're not it's not a full-time thing. It's everyone's doing other stuff, and but we do want to keep playing a little bit more into next year if we can.
Definitely. It'd be good to see you come to Wollongong. I think it's been
is that the place there where bands play?
Well, there's many great venues here.
Yeah. No, I would love to. Absolutely love to. I'd love to pick your brains for that later about where we should
definitely.
But that's the plan, though. We had shows booked in Sydney. I think it was April this year, but we have to cancel because we have a drummer. But the plan is to sort of do that next year. So I'd love to play a show, I don't know, in Sydney and maybe one in Wollongong, something like that, or a couple of shows like that. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. That'd be fantastic. So tell me about Phil. What are you doing now? What have you got? Any other side projects, or you writing a book? Yeah.
A bit of stuff going on. I mean, apart from, I've been writing a bit of stuff for Nursery Crime, so like the idea is that we're going to do maybe a single or an EP or something, which we were going to do earlier this year. So hopefully that'll happen. Pardon me, early next year. I've got like a solo kind of recording which I've been sitting on for ages. It's kind of half finished, so I want to try and finish that just for the hell of it. No, I don't have any plans other than just to record it because it's fun. To do that.
Yeah.
That's kind of very different than kind of Nursery Crimes kind of stuff. And yeah, that's basically it. But I do a fair bit of, and I have from probably decades now. I do a lot of writing with Body Jar, so we're going to do a bit. Cam and I will do a bit more of that soon. And that's been something, that relationship's been going on since the early 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. So you're on a break again now, and not going to do much music wise till next year. But are you thinking of a new Nursery Crimes album in the future or ever?
Look, it would possibly. It would just depend. I mean, I think the plan is, to do. We were thinking about doing like a 7-inch single. That's what we wanted to do earlier this year. So, all being well, if we can do that early next year, just put it out through just an indie label, like just a couple of songs, and then just take it from there. Just to have a couple of new songs out. Like I've got heaps, and I know David's been writing a few new songs too. So we've got a bit of stuff there, just for a bit of fun, really. Part of the problem with Nursery Crimes is that we've had different lineup changes, and having to kind of consolidate the lineup. It's always been a bit of a challenge.
Who is the best band you've supported? Who
that we've supported?
You've had the most fun with, that you've got along
probably
with
the Descendants, mate. Probably the Descendants, just because they're a great band. They're also really nice guys. But, back in the day, we did some great supports back in the day. Playing with the Rollins band was pretty inspirational. Playing with Faith No More, when they were kind of really big, but they were great guys, really nice people. That was good. But probably the Descendants, though, just for I think they're one of those bands who have just kind of stuck to their guns. They just do what they do, and I think everything's kind of turned around, and now they're kind of reaping a little bit of the benefits of their music and the sort of legacy that they've created over so many decades.
Yeah. I've got to ask this, Eleanor Rigby, whose idea was that? Because that is, to me, that is my favourite cover ever from a band doing another song. It is like, and were you Beatles fans, or you just loved that song, or?
I look a bit of both. I think growing up, David, our guitarist, Dave Dixon, is a massive Beatles fan. I probably not as much as him, but I think what happened was we had a compilation record, right? I think it was called something like Molly's Top 100 or something, and it was just all these kind of, April Sun and Cuba and stuff like that. But it had the Zoot version of Eleanor Rigby, that Australian band Zoot, who did that kind of proggy metal version of it. And I think we just heard that and thought, oh, that's really cool. We'll do that, but we'll really speed it up. So I think, and it was just a fun thing. It wasn't ever supposed to be a single. It was supposed to be a B-side.
Okay.
And I think at the time we were with Survival Records in Sydney, and I think they just said, oh, no, you should make that the A-side. And so I think 11 Hours a Day was supposed to be the A-side, and Eleanor Rigby was going to be the B, but ended up getting swapped. I think
fucking spot on. I think I listened to that song daily.
Awesome.
Daily, yeah.
There's a funny video clip floating around for that too that we made, which is pretty hilarious.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah,
no, that'd actually be good to see. Not support act, doing a Nursery Crimes gig. Do you find the majority of the punters old guys like us, or Are you getting your sound? Because like, don't get me wrong, but like I've said to people, oh fuck, have you heard Nursery Crimes? This doing this, blah 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 blah. Oh no, who are they? Well, you know what I mean. Do you get more of an older crowd, or you got a long younger punters coming to see your shows, which would become pretty big fans, I'd say.
Probably a little bit of both. It's mainly people from older people, I suppose, like people from back in the day. So I think, when you do, it's a bit like what we're doing or what the meanies are doing or even what the hard-ons are doing to some extent. It's like you're going to get a bit of that people there's a bit of nostalgia in there. I think, but I think I noticed when we played up, and to be fair, the gigs we've done recently have been with other bands, so it's a bit hard to kind of judge it. But I reckon there's a lot of younger people there too at these shows too. So for example, about like Descendants, I've noticed there's a lot of people who are kind of copying on. Descendants, yeah. So they've got that kind of, it's almost a perennial fan base that keeps kind of rejuvenating itself. So I think as younger people find out about some of these bands, they get into it. I think with Nursery Crimes too, we've been pretty, partly because we're a bit lazy, but what we don't want to do or didn't want to do is just keep playing and playing and playing, doing the same thing over and over and over. So the fact that we only play and have these huge breaks, when we do play, it keeps it fresh. So it's kind of, for us, it's kind of good, and try to make it pretty high energy and intense and all that kind of stuff. But we're not, I wouldn't want to do it every weekend because it sort of, takes away, it becomes less unique, I suppose.
Yeah. So getting back to the what's happening with Phil, have you ever thought of writing a book about the scene, the input you guys had in the scene? Like I just finished, last year I finished Mick Blood's Limelight.
Yeah.
And it was a blowout. I thought I knew everything about that band, and there was so much that I didn't even know Eric Groth from Parramatta was their guitarist. I like that blew the fuck out of my head when I read. I said I just can't see the hairy little man just playing guitar and
yeah.
I've been to Lime Spiders gigs from 84 onwards, and I don't remember ever seeing him. But yeah,
that's interesting about Lime Spiders. Actually, I've actually been kind of keeping, not so much a journal, but just kind of writing down bits and pieces over different eras and that kind of stuff. So that is something that interests me, definitely. It's interesting about the Spiders, the Slush Puppies. We played our last ever gig with them, actually, which it was at Melbourne University. So it would have been, I think it was February 89. That was our last ever show. So I always remember that because it's our last Slush Puppies gig.
Yeah, I bet. Have you got children?
Yes. Yep. Got 3 kids. 2 of them are adults, and one's a bit younger. But they, they're not really kind of into music that much, which is,
They're not into music. Do they go, oh, this is Dad, and put on a record or something with their mate?
Not really. I think they're kind of aware of it, but they're sort of, I talk about it a bit. Like a couple of years ago, I took my daughter to see Taylor Swift, which I actually really enjoyed, to be honest. But more kind of, I think it's funny. When I was growing up, I was the sort of typical nerdy kid who couldn't play sport, right? Who kind of found alternative music and punk rock, and that was my kind of savior. I was one of those kind of kids. But both my sons are like really sporty, so they're the opposite of me.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, I wasn't.
So what made you into music? What made you want to sing? Obviously, your voice. You've got like a perfect voice for punk rock. But what was it that made you want to do it?
I think it's just, I just remember being from a very young age, like, just listening to stuff on the radio and just love being obsessed, and I mean obsessed with music. So probably like a lot of kids that got into bands, I was just obsessed with songs. And in primary school, I used to kind of write lyrics even though I couldn't play an instrument and just think I'm going to be in a band. So my friend and I would talk about being in a band even though we couldn't play, and it wasn't until it was about 14 or something that I started learning the guitar, and it was just an obsession, I think. Matt just really wanted to do it and started a kind of band when I was about 15 with my Ted, who was my kind of high school friend, and just fumbled along and eventually, you sort of teach yourself to play instruments and get into it. I think I was just obsessed with it. Like I remember watching, like a lot of kids of our vintage, watching Countdown when I was really young, going, yeah, I want to be there. I want to do that, that kind of thing. And I suppose, and just discovering the right, what great bands. And I started off liking, the Angels around that face-to-face, no exit era, late 70s. And then I kind of progressed. Someone played me Head Injuries by Midnight Oil. I was like, whoa, that's better, And then from there, I kind of discovered bands like the Birthday Party and the Gun Club and all that kind of punk stuff. And so I was a massive fan of the Birthday Party, like massive, massive fan. Very influential band on me, like in terms of just like they didn't have any peers, Amazing band. Lucky enough to see them as an underage kid. I saw them in 1983 on the last couple of shows they did in Melbourne. I saw them at RMIT, which is fantastic, amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Just for the last 10 minutes, do you want to talk to people about the young people out there that are getting into the scene, getting into the music scene? Have you got any good advice maybe that you might have been given at the time when you were starting off? Is there good advice there?
I suppose you just got to kind of believe in what you're doing, I think, and not give too much of a fuck about what other people are, what other people think or what other people are saying. And I think you just got to hustle a bit for gigs, you got to kind of, I suppose when we started playing in the 80s, it was, obviously simpler times and you're just sticking flyers up in record shops, like Missing Lincoln or Go-Go in Melbourne or Waterfront in Sydney. But I think it's just letting people know, like, we started going to gigs and we just hand out flyers at other punk shows, hardcore gigs in Melbourne and stuff. And that was, I think, just doing that. I think that grassroots stuff really works, Obviously, you can use social media to do it, but I think it's just, getting out there and just doing stuff and not really caring too much. I think sometimes when I look back at sort of my career, I think, gee, there's times where I probably was you get too worried about what other people think. Oh, should I be doing this or should I be doing that? Just do whatever fucking feels right,
Yeah. Understood. Well, as I said before, I am a total groupie, mate. I just you don't even have to have more than 10 people watching a gig, and if I like that band, like I'm just fucking awestruck. I'm thinking, and that's probably got a lot to do with I have no fucking talent at all. When it comes to music, I can play the sync. When I'm doing the dishes, I get a little bit of a drum beat happening in the sync, but that's about it. Nice. But yeah.
I think that's the great thing about music, Matt. Like I always think now, even as I get older, it means something to different people. Everyone has their own unique experience with music, and that's what's amazing about it, Like even now, like I'll just I can just lie back with my headphones on and put something on and just get lost in it and think, wow, this is fucking amazing, Like I have that same enthusiasm and passion I reckon I had when I was 14 years old. It's amazing. It's still a mystery. Music is still a mystery to me. You can pick up a guitar or piano or whatever the hell and just write something, and there's that magic there. It doesn't mean it's good or anything, but you can just that magic is still there for me. The passion for doing it.
Yep. And last of all, as an Australian musician, as in your peers, who do you really not look up to, but who do you really have a lot of respect in the Aussie punk scene? That's been around same time as you guys, or even later, or even before. Have you got that, like, that's someone that you think, oh, you know, like this guy just fucking makes me just want to go out there and just fucking give it all, my all. Have you got anyone?
It's interesting when you asked that question. I thought right at the start, I thought some of those people like, Phil McDougall or Kevin Lobotomy in Melbourne have done punk shows on the radio since the 80s, and they're people who have just really supported the scene, and there'd be people equivalents in every other state. But people like that who actually promote, and people like yourself, people who actually get out there and take the time to promote bands, I think that kind of stuff I find really inspirational. And look, mate, people like Nick Cave and that who I've liked since I was a young teenager, from everything he's done, even up until right now. I mean, I love a lot of those kind of late 70s Australian bands, like the Thought Criminals from Sydney. They're an amazing band.
Excellent.
Just great because they're a little bit interesting. They were doing that thing, but they were a little bit kind of bit of intellect in there and a little bit quirky and a bit different. So I love them. But I love the Saints, like, the first couple of Saints albums are just amazing records, really powerful. But yeah, that's the sort of stuff that comes to mind. I loved Mid-Youth Crisis, 1 Inch Punch, a Melbourne band. They were awesome. Lots of great bands.
Rob's just done so much for the scene, not only as a musician, but as a producer. As he's just done a lot for the scene. I think Rob Younger is fucking amazing. When I'm bored some nights, I watch them live at Paddington Town Hall. I reckon that's one of the fucking best gigs.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I was lucky enough to discover them, whenever it was, 1980, and but amazing stuff to listen, amazing records, and just the way they went about their kind of, booking their own shows and doing all that kind of stuff. It was very punk.
Thank you so much, Phil. We've got to do a part 2, mate.
Mate, we've got to talk all day, Matt. Let's do it.
Thank you so much for being on the show. And yes, I'll get back to you, and we'll do a part 2 because I've still got more to ask.
I'd love to. Thanks very much for taking the time, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the music, brother. Thank you for the music.
No worries. We'll talk soon, mate.